We can't help it but stage a fight between what will be the flagship handsets this spring season. This is Daniel from PhoneArena with a preview comparison of Samsung's Galaxy S5 and the Sony Xperia Z2. Both sport 1080p displays, Snapdragon 801 processors and high-resolution cameras, but that's where the similarities stop. Let's dive in and stack the two Android monsters against each other. Our cage fight begins with a rather different chassis, each company made for the spring 2014 flagship. Apart from the design and water resistance certification differences, the two handsets differ in overall dimensions too. The Galaxy S5 might be taller and wider than last year's S4, but compared to the Xperia Z2 it actually comes shorter and more manageable in the hand. Sony's phone is also slightly heavier, but that's the price to pay for choosing premium materials for the chassis. The Xperia Z2 is crafted in the best traditions of Sony's omni-balance design with glass front and back plate clasped into a sturdy aluminum frame. Galaxy S5 looks less premium despite the new rear design with perforated looks. Even though both phones are certified as waterproof, the back cover of the Galaxy S5 is still removable, revealing the swappable battery, micro SIM and micro SD slots. There is a rubber edge that seals those compartments when the back cover is snapped back on, and a protective flap on the USB port at the bottom, and that's that. Xperia Z2 offers a unibody design with sealed battery and all the ports and slots covered on the sides, but its IP58 certification is higher than the 57 one on the S5. Sony's phone can stay in up to 5 feet, 1.5 meters of water for up to an hour, whereas the Galaxy S5 can be used in the bathtub, rain or shower, but dunking it is allowed at only up to 3 feet, 1 meter of water, and for a maximum of half an hour that. Samsung embedded a finger scanner in the home key of the Galaxy S5 and put a heart rate sensor on the back next to the LED flash. These features, especially the heartbeat thingy, are unique for the handset, but Sony also has something different in store with the Xperia Z2. The Japanese graced the handset with stereo speakers and amplifier set dubbed S-Front Surround Sound, as well as digital noise cancellation tech that eventually weeds out most of the ambient noise when you listen to music. Which set of features you would take? That's up to personal preferences here, as both manufacturers managed to offer something to set their phones apart. Sony issued a laundry list of technologies for the 5.2-inch 1080p display of the Z1. There's a new live color LED tech that is poised to produce brighter, more vivid imagery without oversaturating them, like the Super AMOLED display tech on the Galaxy S5 does. Thus, on the color representation front, the Z2 screen might perform better than the 5.1-inch 1080p panel of the S5, but we will know for sure after the tests we make on the retail units. Other than that, the display quality seems to be pretty close. The Z2 carries an IPS panel, unlike the Z1, so its viewing angles are finally good, but so are the excellent ones on the S5. Check out how much better the viewing angles and color presentation are on the Xperia Z2 though, compared to the Z1. Usually, LCD displays, which use their own backlighting, are brighter than OLED ones. This often forces manufacturers to resort to innovative screen reflectance coatings for better outdoor visibility, and Samsung has a very good track record in that regard. With the Galaxy S5, however, Samsung managed to craft a screen with 500 nits of peak brightness and just 2 nits minimum, so this point is finer rendered mood, as that's the maximum brightness of a good LCD display too. The 2.5 GHz quad-core Snapdragon 801 processor in the Galaxy S5 is a tad faster than the 2.3 GHz version in the Z2, though that's unlikely to present any significant difference in everyday usage or in benchmarks for that matter. We have dedicated image signal processors with it for a 45% improvement in camera sensor processing speeds, so both handsets seem to be future-proof in the silicon department. That's at least until Snapdragon 805 hits later this year. Check out the benchmarks we ran on a demo S5 unit to gauge what's to expect from the new Snapdragon 801 processor that Samsung and Sony use here. Sony tops the Galaxy S5 in the RAM department, equipping the Z2 with the generous 3GB, while the Galaxy S5 makes do with 2, which on theory would mean less intensive multitasking, but in reality the noticeable difference might only be in uploading times. Both handsets come with 16GB of internal memory out of the box and offer microSD slots for storage expansion. Samsung plastered a new TouchWiz user interface on top of the latest Android 4.4.2 KitKat in the Galaxy S5. It introduces flatter, round icons, reworked menus and a plethora of new features like private mode or kids mode. It held off on the S-branded apps and functions this time, only loading the camera up with new features. made possible by the new sensor and chipset. Sony's Xperia Z2 carries the company's own Xperia interface overlay, coated again over Android KitKat. There are numerous functionality improvements too, like double tap to wake, smart call function that lets you answer calls with gestures, and new extras in the camera interface. There's also a What's New app with its own home screen widget that serves as a recommendation engine for apps, media and feeds. Both phones offer high-resolution cameras and LED flash on the back. The Z2 has a 20 megapixel sensor, while the Galaxy S5 comes with a 16 megapixel unit. Here are some quick samples from both devices taken at the MWC Expo show floor. At first blush, the camera on the S5 looks better, but those are not retail units, so it saved the verdict for later. Snapdragon 801 processor in the S5 and Z2 allows 4K video recording with fluid 30 frames per second, as well as selective focus for bokeh effect in the camera app, and both phones take advantage of those, just that Sony calls it background defocus. Samsung offers real-time HDR photography, and that's for both stills and video, plus it combines the typical contrast autofocus with face detection, allowing impressively fast 0.3 second shot-to-shot times. The Galaxy S5 camera interface is a bit easier to use with its large, easy-to-press option buttons, while the one on the Xperia Z2 offers a perplexing array of modes that are arranged in a somewhat ragtag way. Sony managed to sneak a large 3200 mAh battery in the slim 8.2mm chassis of the Z2, and it cites 6 to 7 hours of HD video watching on a charge, which is just an average screen-on duration for an Android flagship though. The 2800 mAh battery unit in the Galaxy S5 can thankfully be swapped out in the best of Samsung's design traditions. It is rated for the respectable 21 hours of talk time on a charge and 16 days of standby. Samsung bragged that the Galaxy S5 can endure up to 10 hours of web browsing and up to 12 hours of HD video playback, and these are impressive numbers indeed, almost double what Z2 offers on paper. There is a new ultra power saving mode too that makes the display on the S5 show images in black and white, shutting down all processes and connections it deems unnecessary, which should make the phone last quite a long time in this mode in case you're running out of juice. Those features combined are likely to make the Samsung Galaxy S5 last longer overall than the Sony Xperia Z2, with a similar usage pattern despite the larger battery capacity in Sony's phone. If someone told us before the MWC that Sony will be the one chasing the spec sheet with its newest flagship instead of Samsung, we would have found it hard to believe, yet that's what happened here. Xperia Z2 has a tad larger screen and a larger battery than the Galaxy S5, plus more RAM and a high-resolution camera. Its waterproof certification is also higher than the one on the Galaxy S5, and the design looks and feels more premium in the hand. The S5, however, is more compact and a tad lighter, plus it carries two unique features, the finger scanner biometry and a heart rate sensor on the back. Still, Sony counters these pretty well with the addition of its own audio extras, like stereo speakers and a digital noise cancellation mode. Thus, the Xperia Z2 combines both the beauty and the beast in its glass and metal chassis. Given that both phones are capable of 4K video recording, Galaxy S5 would only be preferable before the Z2 if it comes with lesser pricing, or if you long to unlock the phone with your fingerprint and measure your heart rate on a regular basis. There's still quite a lot of important variables to consider though, like the individual call quality and the battery life of the two Spring 2014 juggernauts, so stay tuned for PhoneArena's detailed comparison between the retail Galaxy S5 and the Xperia Z2.